एक मिनट रुक जाओ, रेडी होने दो. चलो ये कर लेते हैं. This could be a great intro.
Hi, I'm Akshay.
Hi, this is Saurabh, and you are listening to the Founder Thesis podcast. We meet some of the most celebrated startup founders in the country.
And we want to learn how to build a unicorn.
Hey everyone, I'm Shashank, one of the co-founders and CEO of Dehaat.
Some of the best known startups like Zomato and Swiggy are making the most impact in the lives of people living in cities. Life has never been easier for the kind of people who listen to this podcast. But what about the people living in millions of villages in India who are not tech savvy and lack access to basic infrastructure? We're proud to present to you today a conversation with a founder who is building an Amazon for farmers. Shashank Kumar is the founder of Dehaat, and coming from a farming community, he has a first-hand understanding of the problems faced by this segment. What he's building at Dehaat is an everything store for farmers, from where farmers can buy pretty much anything they need as an input, including financial services like insurance and loans. And once the farmer is ready to sell his product, he can also sell it at his local Dehaat store at a fair and transparent price. And on top of that, farmers get access to content and guidance to help them manage their crops better. Here's Shashank telling Akshay Dutt about Dehaat.
So, Shashank, you grew up in a village in Bihar. Tell me, what was that like?
Yeah, so that was the starting phase of my life. And again, I belong to a place called Chhapra, Saran. It's a small town, nearly 80 kilometers far from the state capital, Patna. Initial 7-8 years of my life, I had spent in rural, semi-urban setup.
So, was it like a pretty standard thing for people to pursue an IIT as the path there, like to aim for the entrance exams?
Not really. It was quite diverse all across, right from science to medical background, and a lot of students used to opt for literature.
What made you want to do IIT? Like pursue engineering?
Honestly speaking, I mean, once in my village, someone said that IITians make a lot of money. they get good salary. Yeah. So I think that's how I heard about IIT word very first time in my life.
And tell me about that transition into IIT now.
It was a complete transition for sure, right? I mean, because like from a sort of a boarding school to again IIT, and that too in a city like Delhi, and transition because it was a more competitive world, right? And it was way faster than, of course, I mean, in what we had seen, whether in my hometown or in that school for that matter. And again, obviously, needless to say, that were people with sort of bigger dreams. But more importantly, in fact, at the same time, and in fact, many people with a lot of exposure, right? I mean, on a candid note, like in my case, when I cleared IIT, I thought that now I think everything I've achieved in my life, right? And I think, and that used to be notion, right? Because in your village or in your district, people used to say that, Acha, once you are into IIT, then you are done in your life, right? So that was like the same state of mind for me. But then it took me 1 or 2 semesters to understand that no, it's just a new beginning, boss.
So you became pretty outgoing during those 4 years.
Absolutely.
So where did you get placed through campus then?
So I got placed in a startup, in a management consulting startup company called Beacon.
What kind of consulting were they offering?
Oh, it was a pure sort of strategy and management consulting role. In a specific domain of supply chain, retail, FMCG.
So these guys must have been from that FMCG and retail industry, like.
Absolutely. So they, I think, before they started this venture, they worked with P&G, Unilever, and that's where basically they found their trigger point.
So how did that Beacon stint lead you to become an entrepreneur?
Oh, a lot, because obviously, I mean, so excuse me, technically, I was the first employee of Beacon, and of course, although I was quite junior to them, but still being from same college, obviously it brings a different degree of comfort with each other. So somehow in such a short span of 2.5 years, in fact, I could experience different phases of the company, right? I mean, when you had so many projects, then sort of financial crisis, when few projects basically again, I mean, people backed off, and still as an entrepreneur, so in fact, you are running the company with a high spirit, you are fighting. So that really helped me, and I think and that and but at the same time, 2008 to 10, that was the time when, at least in India, we started hearing the word called startups or entrepreneurship, right? I mean,
Yep.
Flipkart was,
Early Flipkart days.
yeah, Flipkart was there, Jabong was started, right? I mean, books of Rashmi Bansal, were out on the shelves, right? So then suddenly I thought, hey, it's a good career path, right? I mean, why to, and it somehow it was a default setting in me to not to follow the standard template, right? I think something what I sort of realized when I decided to join a startup rather than going for a sort of any large firm or so.
Right.
So then again, the same thought process that, all right, I mean, it's fine that 2.5 years of consulting stint I have, while my peers in fact are trying to write GMAT or CAT. I mean, let's think about this startup bit, right? Because from your inner side, I think this is something which is really exciting you. And then more importantly, I had that 2.5 years of experience of working very closely with first generation entrepreneurs or so. So then passionately I started exploring different ideas, for my own startup.
So how did you finalize, tell me that journey of leaving a job and becoming a founder?
So when I found the soft corner towards entrepreneurship, so it's right from that day, started exploring ulte-pulte ideas. At the same time, I think my family background, I think that is something which really made me worried. That, hey, so you are not from business background, there is no experience, right? So more importantly, that fear of failure or some sort of let's say risk-taking ability, right? I mean, not having risk-taking ability. I think somehow I believe that was in my blood or in my background. So again, I mean, while exploring different ideas to sort of to think or to work, I really worked hard to sort of graduate myself as an entrepreneur. So for example, during weekends I used to go to Chandni Chowk, Chawdi, Sadar Bazaar, which is the wholesale market of Delhi and NCR. I mean, just to see that how people sort of operate, and how does the core business in fact look like, right? At the same time, I tried to talk to as many people as possible, all the veterans like again Sanjeev Chandani of Naukri, or different people. Of course, I mean,
you just sent him an email or something that I want to talk.
No,
to
I used to keep a close track because again, as I said, that because of that early signs of entrepreneurial ecosystem or evolving entrepreneurial ecosystem. I mean, all the colleges, in fact, they started organizing these talks. So, and I was just out of college. I had good repo, among my juniors, right? I mean, so I used to tell them, hey, so whenever any entrepreneur is coming for talk, I mean, keep me posted,
right.
Let me know.
Right.
So, or wherever I found any opportunity. So yeah, and then at the same time, again, when you are into job, and that too in consulting, right? I mean, then you don't really care about your cost, your expenses, right? Because very first time in your life, I mean, you're actually getting good money, right? So then also cutting down your expenses and those stuff, right? I mean, so it took me one good year to certify myself as a prospective entrepreneur, right? I mean, after visiting infinite visits to different markets, meeting different people, reading a lot of books, cutting down expenses. I mean, some sort of more sort of working on yourself rather than the idea, for that matter. And then along with that, again, obviously, what would be the idea for which, let's say, I can give my rest of my life? Again, I mean, that was again a parallel exercise altogether.
So what was that idea which you wanted to explore deeply?
Well, so I explored many ideas. Like, so one of the ideas was to work with health workers, or maybe to aggregate auto rickshaw wala, because those days, of course, I mean, even that space was highly sort of, unstructured. There was no Ola, there was no Jugnu at that point of time.
But you knew about Uber, like the concept of aggregation was there.
Concept of aggregation was there, but honestly speaking, I didn't know about Uber at that point of time. But and then suddenly again it boils down to agree, and primarily because of when I think in a retrospect manner, I think because of multiple reasons. Because by that time I got exposed to both the ends of food chain. Obviously, one, my family background or the farming background during initial 7-8 years of my life, and secondly, during my consulting stint, I got a chance to work with all these FMCG players, whether it's Unilever's or PepsiCo or Britannia or Mother Dairy or so. So of course, I mean, and with getting exposed to both the ends of food chain, at least I could understand the gaps of this entire agriculture supply chain, and why, or at least facts that one side farmers are not happy with the return, and at the same time these companies are struggling too. And then at the same time, when I double clicked, and then the numbers I came across, those numbers were mind boggling in terms of having more than 100 million farmers in India, or the overall TAM or the market size as more than $350 billion or so. So, so then.
Yeah, that time probably 50% of India's economy was agriculture, I guess.
It was 15% GDP contribution. Even as on date, that's 13, close to 14% or so. But more importantly, I could understand that it's a large market. No one else is doing. And again, the same sort of thought process that, hey, so it's not that standard template, like nobody else is doing, then I must do this, right? It was more of that sort of default setting. And then at the same time, by that time, I could realize the strength in myself, and which was having a great interpersonal skill.
What was your plan? Like you wanted to be like a B2B company which procures from farmers and supplies to like the Unilevers and the Nestle's of the world. Was that the idea, or?
So that was the idea for sure, but that was never the plan even for a single day, because that was definitely the idea. That was a trigger point to start thinking about the sector. But then we met a lot of farmers of different regions. Whether again my base was in Gurgaon, so again I used to travel towards sometimes Rajasthan or maybe Haridwar side or maybe Bihar or UP, and then interacted with more than 1,000 farmers again over 6-7 months or so. And
this you were doing while holding down a job, like along with on weekends you would travel and meet farmers.
Absolutely. And then realize that this market linkage or the offtake part, that's not the only problem farmers are facing. Their actual problem begins in the beginning of season itself, right? Which crop to grow, how to grow, right? I mean, agri import, or there are a lot of challenges they have to go through. And again, so then and then that's how this model of supporting the farmer throughout the season with the end-to-end proposition. I think that was the idea since beginning. But more importantly, initially it was just a thought, Akshay, to do something in ag, so that you can bring transparency, so that you can aggregate more and more farmers to change their life. I think that was the idea. Model, it was not clear, right? I mean, and I strongly believe that, I was fortunate to have this approach in my life, right? I mean, because there was no model, despite of being consultant, but there was no Excel sheet, there was no Word doc, no PPT or business plan. It was just a thought that can you bring a change in this sector? And that's how it all started.
So what was like version 1 of what you launched, like version 1 product?
So our version 1 was, I would say, even there was no version one with which we started, right? I mean, we definitely, I mean, like for example, when I felt that now I'm ready to take this plunge, in fact, I quit, I resigned. By that time, in fact, and then at the same time, from day zero, started building a core founding team, and that's how basically got to know few friends, few. I mean, same habit of talking to as many people as possible, and in that process, basically you got few folks to join you and your sort of thought process. That was another sort of kick.
Join as co-founders or as employees?
No, co-founders.
Okay.
Yeah. And
So
that
who
that,
all joined
that,
in? Like, what was the founding team?
So very old friend of mine, Manish. We prepared for IIT together. And then another friend Shyam. Right. So these two folks, in fact, they got interested. When I went ahead, in fact, I found two, three more folks. In fact, Amrendra, whom I didn't know earlier, but somehow he got to know that, hey, he's doing something in agri, and he was passionate by himself to do something in ag. Similarly, others and Abhishek, and that's how kind of again six of us somehow came together.
Six is a pretty large founding team. Huh?
It's a pretty large founding team, yeah. But yeah, I mean, by that time there was no model, Akshay, right? I mean, that's why I would say that there was no version one. In fact, I think version one of Dehaat was building a founding team, for a goal, right? And goal was to build a large, sustainable business model around farmers.
So, talk me through the model. What exactly is it? Like, you first go to a farmer and tie up, or
the model was that hey, so can we bring businesses and farmers together in a transparent way, in a controlled way, and then while connecting farmers to different businesses, whether it's agri input companies or banks or financial institution or market, effectively, as a platform, you intend or you want to provide everything under one roof, for agriculture to farmers in an accessible as well as affordable way.
So, tell me about your go-to market then. Like, you must have built some set of services through some alliances in some format, which maybe as a annual subscription or for a farmer, or what was that?
Our go-to market was fairly simple for the farmers. That hey, so we are sort of one-stop solution for you. Whichever crop you are growing, you will get agri input, advisory, and market linkage, through this platform. Secondly, since you are a small farmer, that means your number of transaction is very high, but the ticket size of transaction is very small. And we are not just into information exchange. We are talking about actual, supply chain linkage, whether it's input or output. So all these services are really accessible for you. So, for example, if you want to sell the produce, you don't have to travel 40 kilometers, or if you don't, or either for the transaction. So, the Dehaat Center is close to your farm gate, within 3 to 5 kilometer area. That's where you can come. You can deposit your material. You can buy your seeds. And for advisory, again, you all have mobile phones. So we are, again, we'll call you and we'll provide you customized advisory.
So your GTM is physical stores, essentially. Like, that's what I'm trying to understand. Like,
it's actually physical as well as digital both, because farmers, either they download the app.
But at that stage, it must have been more physical, right?
Oh, at that stage, it was all physical. It was all manual. In fact, first two Dehaat store or Dehaat centers, we operated by ourselves for 13, 14 months. So those days, it was all.
Where did you open the first center? Like, tell me about that first center.
Oh, well, it was in Vaishali district of Bihar. And again, again, there is a story. We did not have any store, but we started operating. We started working with farmers who got excited to hear about our plan. At the same time, they had some fear too, because like 26, 25 years old kids, no agricultural background, right? And they are asking us to change what they have been doing. So, but still, again, because of persistent effort, few of the farmers, in fact, they enrolled themselves. And more importantly, they realize that, hey, there is no sort of high opportunity cost, right? Because for advisory they are not charging. For agri input, when we will purchase, we will pay, and for agri output, they will pay when they will purchase, right? I mean, so as such, there is no risk involved.
And when was this, the first center? Month and year, if you remember.
It was in 2013.
Okay. And you called it Dehaat then? Like, when did you coin the name?
No, so the name Dehaat, it came in 2014. And again, because our registered name is Green Ag Revolution Private Limited. So of course, I mean, it was like way too English, for any farmer. So we thought that also, no, since now we are, and again, since 2013 to 2014, we had 4 or 5 centers by that time in different localities. So we thought that, no, so let's pick a name which will be easier for farmers to sort of call or recall. So, and that's how, again, I mean, Dehaat as a name, it came into the picture.
Okay. And so, like, first year, how many farmers did you sign up? Like,
Well, so in like first 2 Dehaat centers, as I mentioned, that we operated by ourselves for 13, 14 months, and by that
like
time we
6
already
of you
had,
split up, like 3 on one and 3 on the other center, something like that.
again, I mean, at that point in time, like all 6 of us were not there, because as I said, like Shyam was in college, right? I mean, of course, few of us, in fact, we got connected later. But Amrendra, in fact, we were there. So I mean, at that point of time, and just 3 of us were there on ground. 952,000 farmers, in fact, they were already kind of associated with those 2 Dehaat centers, and that was again another kick for us that things are moving in the right direction. Let's have more and more Dehaat centers.
Yeah, 1,000 is a pretty substantial number. Yeah, and the second center was soon after the first one. Like, how much gap?
Very soon. Just
Okay.
right, I mean, next season, And in fact, again, in farmers community, word of mouth, that plays the most important role, right? So then the local farmers, in fact, they started spreading the word. And in fact, they themselves, started shortlisting someone from the same community who can run your center, in fact, if you help them in a way. Yeah. So actually we learned, for example, for your information, this Dehaat Center, which is a franchise network today. So we actually learned from the farmers themselves, right? I mean, because we were still thinking that, hey, so whether we should have company-owned, company-operated centers, or we should go for franchisee. But I mean, by the time we would have thought, in fact, we had 4 or 5 prospective candidates in front of us, and at the same time, there was a pressure from the community that, hey, so you have to start the Dehaat Center in our operating area. So we were forced to again adopt this franchise approach. But again, at the same time, we did our deeper research, and again by 2013, there were many evidences around this micro entrepreneur program. I mean, whether it's a microfinance industry or rural FMCG, right? I mean, they all had adopted this micro entrepreneur program. So again, I mean, we customized that micro entrepreneur program in our scheme of things, and that's how this Dehaat franchise or Dehaat micro entrepreneur program basically, was conceptualized. So, and that's how basically the multiplication, was started from 2 to 8 to 21. Yeah.
Okay. So 2 to 8, like next season, then you had like 6 more people who took up franchisees and.
Yeah.
Okay. And what was like the services that were being offered at that time, like a teleconsultation, and then all the inputs were available?
Yeah, it was very limited, as obvious. So, for example, on the ag input side, we did not have pretty large basket. We used to supply only seeds, and again seeds for very selective crops, and then very specific range of brands on the crop protection side. There was no offering on the fertilizer side. So the overall agri input offering.
Crop protection means pesticides.
Pesticides, yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Pesticides, yeah.
And were you also offering the financial products at that time, or they came later?
No, not really. Similarly, on the offtake side, very selective crops, we were in a position to aggregate. For advisory, we had IVR facility. We did not have call center. In fact, we used to we used to be the caller of the call centers by ourselves.
What kind of advice did people want? Like, what kind of questions would you get?
So it was all crop advisory, and again, by that time we had already collected or prepared a decent sort of crop archives and contents from various agriculture universities. So the advisory queries used to be related to pest attack or disease attack, or right dosage of fertilizer, right time to irrigate, or right variety to grow, soil test. So by that time, again, we had already spent good 2.5, 3 years in the sector. And again, we knew somehow, again, we understood very first day that this is going to be a bottleneck if we don't have right advisory content. And more importantly, being not from agri, we did not find any footprints or any sort of ready-made archives to follow. That's why we started building by ourselves. So, but yeah, on the advisory piece, we had IVR and more importantly, call center for a very specific duration, right? Just for like 2 to 3 hours in a day or so.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how did you build the content? Like, it was like you were creating some like Word documents with all of that content in it, or like?
Yeah. It was all Word doc, Dropbox, some bit of, let's say, some automation through your any HTML page or so. We could have many interns from our colleges, right? And so they helped us while building that platform. Yeah.
And how were you capturing data around farmers? Because that data would make your advisory also better. Like if you had
those days, initially it was all paper and pen. If not paper pen, then through voice, because we used to record every single farmers meeting, and mostly survey, paper pen survey, and those stuff.
Like, what kind of data do you collect about farmers?
Starting from farmers' profile in terms of their name, mobile number, their land holding, land records, which crops they are growing, do they have cattle or not, do they have their own access to irrigation. So starting from profile data, and then during the production season, it was all transactional data, that who is buying what, selling what, and so on. So yeah, or behavioral data, that what sort of queries they are asking.
Okay, so this got mapped, like each person's profile got mapped with his purchase, with his questions.
Correct.
Okay. So how does this data make you a smarter organization today? Like, in terms of, are you able to draw some broad macro level trends which then feed into your advice platform? So
firstly, I think firstly, for our own internal efficiency enhancement, this really helped us in terms of reducing your TAT, to maybe maximizing the time spent by the farmer with you, right? Whether earlier it was physical or now it's digital, but of course the behavioral aspect remains same. And more importantly, what next? Because the vision had always been to bring everything related to agri under one roof for farmers. And again, as we just spoke, that initially the offerings were very specific, very limited, right? So some sort of data-backed decision making, that what should be the next right subcategory to introduce.
So how did the services being offered increase? Like, what was the next set of things that you added on? How did you make the Dehaat Center richer and more compelling?
So it has been a bottom-up, approach and journey, Akshay, right? So, of course, with respect to time, around our older Dehaat centers, farmers kept demanding more and more.
And then, like what? Like, if you can, tell me chronologically that we introduced this.
So for example, like there was a time when farmers demanding, hey, so you should supply fertilizer as well. You are buying just one crop in a year. Can you buy the secondary crops as well? Right. After then, at some point of time, they started that, hey, we need more range of pesticides. We need water soluble fertilizers. Right. Then, of course, the financial products, right? I mean, which we introduced just a couple of years ago. So it has been, again, there has been a journey. But more importantly, again, in like 2000, mid 2014 or early 2015, I think that was the time when we realized that we must invest in tech, because by that time we had close to 14, 15 Dehaat centers. And of course, and by that time, again, I mean, we were getting good confidence on ourselves that model is working. So, of course, we need to replicate this number of micro entrepreneurs. We need to add more and more farmers to serve. So that's where basically, we felt the need of, technology as a strong enabler. And then since then, the overall approach basically, it started shifting from completely physical to physical as well as digital. And then to 2015, we raised our first angel round, and since then we started investing in technology, and that brought more scalability, because that's how this number of micro entrepreneurs started growing on season basis.
Tell me about how that evolution happened. Like, you started giving a tablet to the entrepreneur for him to punch an order.
Okay. So we built an Android app. Initially, you banged on. Actually, you rightly said that that we used, because again, those days everyone did not have smartphone, right? I mean, smartphone penetration was limited too. So we used to give a tab with the app installed to the micro entrepreneur. And more importantly, again, I mean, in the product, again, we ensured all those things, what we had learned during our early days. Successfully, we could transform our grassroots learning to a platform or to a product, so that any micro entrepreneur, irrespective of their background, they can get complete hand holding through the platform from very first day, right? And that today, what you have to do, how should you do, right? I mean, how many farmers you should meet, which this brand basically, probably you should sell, and or your incentives and everything. So, but I mean, initially this was a tab given by us. Of course, I mean, with respect to time, that was not needed because of the increased rate of smartphone penetration.
So, your first initiative was towards digitizing the micro entrepreneur's experience. Did you also then digitize the customer's experience, like for them to place, like the farmer can directly place an order through the app or stuff like that?
No. So it was not their very first day. Again, I mean,
but eventually, did that happen? Like, do you have that today?
It did. Yeah, we do have. Now we like for farmers, in fact, they have complete digital interface in form of application, in form of call center, where they can call and they can place their order, whatever query they have, whether it's on the buy side or the sell side or just the query.
So when did you launch the farmer app?
Farmer app we launched in 2017, early 2018 in a way.
So that would have made the farmer enrollment process more efficient.
Correct. Absolutely.
So how did the numbers look like on a per center basis or a per store basis? Like what kind of turnover was one store doing, and how did that evolve over the years?
Well, so in terms of number of farmers per center, there is no change, there is no evolution. And we actually want to, keep it same, keep it intact.
What is the ratio you are gunning for? Like
400, 500 farmers per center, because that's in radius of 3 to 5 kilometers. But of course, with respect to time, when we added more and more categories on the platform, more and more offerings, of course, the business per center or the revenue per center or per farmer, in that kept increasing.
So one question here, this turnover, one part of the turnover is what you are selling, right? Like the seed, the ag inputs, and what about the stuff that you're buying? That gets added on?
Both.
Okay.
This is both.
So if someone sold 10 lakhs worth of seeds and he bought 10 lakhs worth of product from the farmer, so that's the 20 lakh turnover.
So our business is 20. Our business is 20 because that's clearly two different revenue streams for us. But it's definitely not doubly counted. But yeah, with respect to time, with more and more brands and categories we added or offerings we added, we again, I mean, this number kept increasing. For example, as on date, the the average number is 55 to 60 lakhs rupees in a per center. Uh, However, there are many older centers. In fact, they are doing business close to a crore. So, but again, the enterprise level average is 55 to 60.
These crore
Um,
centers must be like in, say, Punjab and these more well-to-do states, like which have wealthier farmers.
Not really. So as on date, we are not present in Punjab. But yeah, but you are right. Of course, I mean, if the prevailing cropping pattern is more remunerative or cash crops, of course, I mean, your likely business is on higher side. You are absolutely right. But yeah, I think the larger reason of this evolution is that firstly, farmers they see value. Whether you were offering very selective services few years ago versus now it's very evolved, right? So even with that, in fact, they see a very clear value. Secondly, the way how the overall platform evolved. For example, as on date, on the input side, you have more than 120 brands, more than 4,000 SKUs. So being a small farmer, whichever crop you are growing, you get wide range of seed, fertilizer, pesticides, herbicides, cattle feed, everything. And then in a neutral way, right? While final decision making that always remains with you, right? Secondly, on the advisory side, again, I mean, you are getting complete customized advisory. In fact, on that piece, we started, fetching data from satellite very recently at the interval of 3 days. So that means that that let's say as a farmer, we are monitoring your land parcel as well. And then again, based on that spatial data, whatever is needed to be done at your farm, in fact, we are advising you based on that, right?
Give me an example, like what kind of advice could you give through satellite imagery?
Everything. For example, at this point of time, let's say your let's say water stress or nutrient stress or crop stress, everything, right? I mean, everything basically.
But how would a satellite image show that? Like talk me through an example.
Sure. So 5-6 months ago, we acquired a company called Farm Guide, and what they have done that they had been working since last 5-6 years. What they have done that they have fetched last 10 years of data from satellite at an interval of 3 days, okay, of 2 million square kilometer area and 6 million different land parcels. And based on this, basically, they have written an algorithm, right? So basically, this is your platform. Now, on a practical day, right, today or on a particular day, if you fetch data from satellites, obviously you get images, right? And then you superimpose those multispectral images on your platform, and then you compare, right? That with this combination of RGB, right? I mean, and based on your 10 years of machine learning, what would be the kind of current status at your farm? Whether your soil moisture seems low, whether your crop stress is higher.
Like
right?
if the soil moisture is low, so patte brown honge, like something like that.
Absolutely,
okay.
Absolutely, sir, absolutely. So of course, for farmers, basically they get an advisory कि आपके खेत की नमी अभी कम है, इसको अभी सिंचाई की जरूरत है, something like that. So farmers they always get advisory in an actionable form. But the point I'm trying to make here is that it's super customized for them.
Right.
Yeah. So, and of course, and then yet you are not charging anything.
How do you map this? Like the farmer on his mobile app will give you a geolocation. How do you map it per farmer? Like
those farmers with smartphone user, they do that because it's a one-time job. If not, then our micro entrepreneur basically they go, or our physical team they go and they map the plot. Yeah.
So part of your farmer onboarding process includes mapping his plot also.
Absolutely. And then on the output side again, as on date, there are more than 650 companies or buyers. They are already listed. So that means again, I mean, as a farmer, whichever crop you're growing, whether you are growing vegetables or fruits or staples or pulses, You don't have to be dependent upon the just local market or mandi or trader. Versus that, you're getting much wider option of buyers with the fair weighing and payment terms. And then, so I think the overall traction.
So, how does the farmer sell his produce? Does he sell to Dehaat and then you take care of it, or he comes to Dehaat and then you connect him to buyers?
No, they sell to us. They sell to us, and then we take care of logistic and everything post harvest.
So like you would have regular price updates and real time price updates, and then on the mobile app the farmer can see, अच्छा मुझे मंडी में ये rate मिल रहा है, मुझे Dehaat में ये rate मिल रहा है.
Absolutely, every day.
And he has to drop it off at Dehaat. Like after that, you take care of logistics.
Correct.
Okay. So this is like fairly logistics intensive, no? Like 2,300 locations which may not have great road connectivity, where every day I'm assuming your trucks would be going and dropping.
Yeah. So that's the fun. That's the fun part. That's where technology helps us.
How much of your total expenditure is on logistics? Like, what is the split of your expenses? Like, how much goes to logistics? How much goes on the input costs, like whatever you procure? And how much on payroll, etc. Like the.
Yeah, see, of course, I mean, our the overall execution is pretty asset light. Of course, our largest expenditure is manpower, right, and then the warehouses we have taken on rent, right. Then in terms of delivery cost or the logistic cost, I think somehow we have built it on a shared basis in a way that, let's say, last mile logistics to farmer, that's built in the incentive to be given to micro entrepreneur in a way, right? So so that the logistic cost is not directly incurred by us in a way, right? Because we give.
No, but warehouse to Dehaat, that you would incur, right?
Yeah, that's us. So that's somewhere around 1.5 to 3%, depending upon the stage and age of that area in a way.
So do you have such a thing as returns? Like you deliver after the order is placed, or you deliver and the entrepreneur keeps inventory?
Not really.
Okay, but he stocks inventory, or it is like real time? Like once an order is placed, the next day the delivery happens.
It's mostly real time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. Yeah. And what is the margin that a micro entrepreneur earns? Like for every 100 rupees of product he sells, what does he get to earn?
So basically, here the incentive structure is designed in such a way so that every month they make around 15 to 25,000 rupees. Okay, that's because. So point is, let's say if you give them a fixed incentive, so against any delivery or against any aggregation of the produce, right? So of course it will end up in, let's say, making sizable income in few months which are peak, because agri is a seasonal activity, right? So, right, because there will be few months, there will be harvesting phase. When they are aggregating more, they will make more money. But at the same time, there will be like 3-4 months when you don't have enough harvesting, neither you have enough deliveries, right? So you'll end up with making very less money, and that's where basically you'll experience the churn, right? Because
isn't this part of life for people for people in the agri sector, that you earn just for a couple of months and that earning is your annual earning?
It is absolutely, and actually that's what we wanted to change, right? Because when we were drawing our learnings about this micro entrepreneurship, and that's what basically we learned, right? Because of this seasonal income in nature, you always experience significant churn, from these micro entrepreneurs, right? So that's why somehow kind of we designed this unique structure where instead of giving them an understanding that you're getting this much like fixed margin or so, like it's like fixed income, more than fixed margin. In fact, it's like fixed income every month at the end of like throughout the year. Yeah.
So how does it work? Like whatever money he collects, he doesn't keep any share of it. He gives it all to you, and then you have some.
No. It's other way around. It's other way around. Like when you are giving any product to deliver, you are obviously, you said that, hey, so your price is 12 and farmer's price is 14. So that means like 2 is yours. Similarly, let's say for next order, let's say your price is 10, farmer's price is maybe 11 and a half. So 1.5 is yours. Similarly, on the offtake time, we are making payment to farmers. And then if you are aggregating, let's say 100 kilo, let's say like per kilo, you are going to get this much. So, and that incentive again, they get into their account. So that's how it works.
So this is margin only, right? Like, so besides this, what other way is there for them to earn?
Some sort of, data collection, some bit of, fee, activities in terms of, aggregating farmers, conducting farmers meetings. So non-transactional activities, they also get incentive out of that.
So if my understanding is correct, essentially the margin that you're giving them is kept at a little lower rate so that you have that extra money to play around with during the low seasons, which you give them as a way to do tasks, and they remain engaged throughout the year.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, got it. Okay. That's a good way to ensure low attrition.
Yep.
Okay. And what is your margin like for every 100 rupees sold? Like, what margin do you get as a company?
I can tell you a broad range at an enterprise level. I think which is 7 to 10% of margin.
So you're like a 1,200 crore business as on date.
Currently, yeah. Again, of course, which is growing on month-on-month basis, but in the current time, our monthly run rate is 100 crore.
So in a way, you're building the Amazon of farming or of farmers. The way, now, because of Amazon, you have so many new age D2C brands, who are able to get distribution because Amazon exists. So similarly, you could have a scenario where you have D2F, like direct to farmer brands, who are creating new kinds of products based on a better understanding of what a farmer needs, and they get distribution through your platform in a quick plug and play manner. So
no, this D2F, I think that's the right way to define direct to farmer model. Whether it can be called as Amazon of agriculture or not sure, but yeah, this D2F bit is definitely something we are building at Dehaat.
So, what has been your fundraise journey like? When did you raise funds, like at the first angel level and then institutional level?
So, as I said earlier, the first angel round we raised in 2015, another angel round we raised in 2017.
How much did you raise in these rounds?
This was just 1.5 crore. But we raised a lot of debt at that point of time. Short-term debt. We took debt, we repaid again, then we took more debt.
Because you needed working capital, so debt made more sense.
Working capital, and more than that, Akshay, in fact, we thought that probably that was the time when our model was in process of, making or evolving in a way. So somehow, and again, I don't know that, that where this thought came from, but we thought that probably let's not take VC money unless and until you as a founder or you as a promoter don't get enough confidence on the model or on the approach.
But how did you get it without being profitable? Because traditional banks would ask for profitability before giving debt.
No, so we were profitable. So of course, our size was small, but this was the beauty of the model, right? Because you were actually sort of bringing value for your customers, right? Which are your farmers or businesses, right? So for example, you actually did not need any cashback to give, any promo to run, right? And that's why kind of let's say the overall unit economics was healthy and profitable.
And asset light, no investment from your side.
I think asset light, absolutely. So, and that's how basically we grew till 2018 organically with just a small raise of 1.5 crore. plus a lot of debts. And then debt was, and again, I said short-term debt, right? I mean, we did not take huge debt and long-term, but we took like 60 days debt, 90 days debt, 45 days debt, right? And that's how kind of,
Like, what was the advantage of that?
mostly because of the seasonality, because during the peak season, you needed more of, working capital or so. Okay. And at the same time, we did not want to take, debt in the company when the overall business size was small, right? Because the idea was to build the traction initially. But then since 2019, we started raising institutional capital. In fact, April 19, we closed our first institutional round of $4 million. And then since then, again, I mean, we have been raising consistently. So then similarly, then March 20.
So who backed you for that 4 million round, the first round?
That round was led by Omnivore. That's an agri-focused VC fund in India. And it was co-led by family fund of Narottam Sheksaria Group, Ambuja Cement, if you have heard. And then early this calendar year, means January 21, we closed our last round, which was the $30 million round. This was led by Nasper or Crossus. Earlier they were known as Nasper. And then another fund co-led the round was RTP Global.
Okay. So, like financial services, you are doing your own data there? Like, I mean, what is your role in financial services? Are you just a reseller?
We just act as a platform where we bring more and more data in front of any financial institution, and then they use that data, to have their own decision making or hypothesis that how much to lend or whom to lend or whom not to lend. But it's completely off balance sheet financing. I mean, we are not lending through our balance sheet. Hypothesis is same here, Akshay. The way how, let's say, as I said, that right, it's direct to farmer construct. So our role is just to bring banks or insurance companies and farmers together, right? I mean, if you have right insurance products for farmers, whether it's cattle or let's say crop or maybe any other sort of general insurance, but related to farmer, I mean, as a platform, we are going to give you, again, farmers or a digital interface to collect premium or so. Similarly to any lender, we will give you enough validatory fact that if you want to lend any farmer to grow tomato, we are going to validate that as a farmer, this farmer has grown historically tomato or not, or hence there is a risk. Or
what is his value of previous revenue and
exactly this much value is this much amount is the right amount to lend to these farmers again to accomplish this task or so.
Okay. So what do you think fintech will be like a big part of your long-term play, or what do you think? Like how much will it contribute to your revenues in the long term?
I would say it's complementary. Because without input and output, again, I mean, you will not be in a position to have this fintech play. So, and that's the way how we have been always, seeing our work, right? That everything is complementary, right? I mean, your advisory is linked to input, right? I mean, because of right input and advisory access, you are getting right access of output. You are doing all these things. That's why you are collecting a lot of data sets. Through because of which you have integrated financial services, so it's all complementary, and but at the same time, again, at this point of time, we find ourselves as a pure facilitator. But needless to say, it's a huge opportunity considering the current penetration of financial services in rural area that's very low. And it's very disheartening for us when we see farmers borrowing money at 3 to 5% monthly. So it's a huge opportunity on top of what we are building or what we are currently working at there.
Right. Okay. So, you you are following pretty much like a Amazon path in the sense that, I think part of the reason why Amazon picked up so much initially was content. Like if I wanted a review of a book, I would search and I would reach Amazon's ratings and I would say, okay, this book has got good reviews. Let me buy it. Where will I buy it? Amazon. So something similar is what you have also done, right? Where content is a way to get stickiness with customers, acquire customers, and then convert them into transacting customers.
Yeah. Though, as I said, that it's there because of our own experience and own sort of journey. But yeah, I mean, good to have validatory facts that that this approach works, or this approach has worked somewhere else, like Amazon.
Do you have competitors?
Well, there
like
are
eChopal is somewhat like a competitor, right? Like there is that ITC initiative.
Well, so of course, I mean, see, firstly, eChopal is not present everywhere. Secondly, ITC is one of our buyers, so that I think that answers your question, right? I mean, because if someone is buying, so of course their initiative, can't be a competitor.
Right. And it's not their core business.
It's not their core business, absolutely.
So you don't have any direct competitor as yet? Like there's nobody comparable?
Well, so there are many, but again, more on the structure side, because this is not a new business you are doing, right? I mean, there are, again, unstructured players, local traders, middlemen, distributors. Of course, you have to compete with on day-to-day basis. But as such, on the structured side, in fact, there are a bunch of folks. But on top of that, I mean, market is huge. And the sector requires many more Dehaat for sure.
If you want to know more about the mission to impact the lives of millions of farmers, then do check out Dehaat by logging in at www.agrevolution.in. That's agrevolution.in.
This episode of Founder Thesis Podcast is brought to you by Long Haul Ventures. Long Haul Ventures is the long haul partner for founders and startups that are building for the long haul. More about them is at www.longhaulventures.com.